Hey gang, I'm out here at Lunkin Field and I saw the coolest plane land in front of me today, so I just wanted to share. Here he comes. Oh wow, is that number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk? What's he doing in TCG land? Wait, what's that? He's legal in Master Duel? I am back on my bullcrap, friends. Here's the deck I have for you today. I very affectionately refer to this deck as Tomahawk Turbo because our main and really only focus is to summon this lad here, number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk. I was inspired by this deck list from Heartbreaker on Master Duel Meta, so thank you, friend, much appreciated. If you're not familiar with Galaxy Tomahawk, he's a rank 7 that takes 2 level 7 monsters, and he has the effect that if you detach 2 material, you can summon as many tokens as possible. So that means if we have an empty board and summon Galaxy Tomahawk to the EMZ, you can summon 5 tokens. With the advent of Link monsters, many other cards found their way onto the Forbidden Limited list simply because of their ability to summon tokens. So I really don't need to tell you how insanely cracked this card is. The deck is a combo deck, and it ends up boiling down to what would you do with 6 monsters on the board, and we're going to answer that question with this deck profile. You may answer that question differently and decide to change up the extra deck lineup a bit, but I mean with 6 tokens, the world is absolutely your oyster. Unlike some combo decks, we actually have a solid amount of follow-up because of the recursiveness of our monsters. But anyway, this deck aims to go first and aims to summon Galaxy Tomahawk as quickly as possible. And although he's our main focus, we actually get to run 2 fairly neat packages of monsters because they do such a good job at facilitating our game plan of getting level 7 monsters out cheaply and quickly. The first group of monsters we're going to look at is the Dragon Rulers. They each have the effect that as a hard once per turn, you can banish either 2 monsters of their attribute or a dragon type monster from your hand or grave in order to special summon this monster from your hand or grave. So anyway, this insane recursiveness, ease of summoning, splashability, and big stats turn Dragon Rulers into the tier 0 meta threat that they're most well known for, but we're mostly going to be using them as relatively easy to summon level 7 material for Galaxy Tomahawk. But they also work as extenders for our Link climbing plays. For the Dragon Rulers, we're on each of the 2 Dragon Rulers that were somehow managed to find their way off the ban list, which is Tempest, and then they're recently on Parole Blaster. We're also on 3 of their respective baby dragons for each, which is Burner and Lightning. Both have an effect where you can discard them and a monster of their attribute or a dragon in order to summon the actual Dragon Ruler from the deck. The baby dragon summon doesn't count as the Dragon Ruler using their effect for the turn, so if you get the summon Dragon Ruler off the board, you can then use their own effect to revive themselves from the grave, which is some serious card advantage, and ends up being where the baby dragons end up being our best cards to see in our opening hand. The other package of monsters we're running are the retrained Armed Dragon Thunders. Just on their own, they do a great job at getting a level 7 on board, namely Pile Armed Dragon, who we'll go over in a second. But also, they're all dragons, so they pair perfectly with the Dragon Rulers as banish fodder for getting them on the board as extenders. The way the armed dragons function is each of them have an effect where you can discard any monster from hand. Doesn't have to be an armed dragon or a dragon, so you could we'll use a hand trap or something in order to special summon the next level armed dragon. So you can go from level 3 to level 5, and they can go from level 5 to a level 7. Now, I know that sounds like a horrible waste of resources, but first, the Dragon Rulers, for instance, work just as well in the grave as they do in the hand, so you can use them as discard fodder. But also, each of the armed dragons have an effect for when they're used to, if they're sent to the grave for the activation of a dragon effect, they'll trigger some sort of +1. If we use level 3, you get to draw 1 card. If you use level 5, he searches a level 5 or higher wind dragon monster, and note that that is not restricted to only armed dragon monsters, so that means he can search out Tempest, or he can also search out Armogram, which we'll go over in a minute. Level 7 searches any armed dragon cards, so that includes the one spell we're running. And also some nice synergy is that the effect only requires that they're used for the activation of a dragon effect, not just an armed dragon effect. So for instance, if you discard one of them for the activation of one of the baby dragons effect, it will trigger their effect. For the ratios themselves, we're on 3 level 3s because he's the only one we can normal summon, so he's the least likely to brick our hand. I'm currently on 2 level 5s, 2 level 7s. You can up these numbers if you want. More monsters in your hand is better for going through the full armed dragon line, and it's nice that you have them as discard fodder in your hand because you'll get to use their +1 effects. But the game you draw 2 level 5s, 2 level 7s, and I don't know, an Ash Blossom, uh, you'll wonder why you're running so many bricks in your deck, and that's why I'm currently cut down on those numbers. Not part of the archetype, but we are on 3 Artillery Catapult Turtle because he is a level 4. He works as one of our main normal summons. You can normal summon him, activate his effect, tribute a monster on the field, which is typically just himself, and then you can summon a level 5 dragon. So we can tribute Artillery Catapult Turtle just to go into Armed Dragon level 5. We're on 3 Pile Arm Dragon, who basically does everything for the archetype. He's a level 7, which is perfect. You can special summon from the hand by discarding a dragon, meaning you could discard a dragon ruler, or you could discard one of the other armed dragons to trigger their effects. Second, while on board, you can send as cost an armed dragon from your deck. It's in order to increase the attack of a monster on the field. The attack increase doesn't come up too often, but the more important part is you're able to send one of the armed dragons to the grave in order to activate the searching effect. So, for instance, you could activate with him on board. You could send a level 5 from deck to grave, and that's going to allow you to search out Tempest, which is pretty strong. Last, for the armed dragons, we're on 2 Armed Dragon Flash, which is an E-Telly of sorts, which is able to special summon out an Armed Dragon level 3 from the deck, and it's searchable by level 7's searching effect. And not exactly part of the engine, but we are on 1 Armogram. He's searchable by level 5, and he has a similar summoning requirement to the Dragon Ruler, so he acts as a nice extender, and he does have a nice negation ability, which does occasionally come up. He can summon himself from hand or grave, so feel free to use him as a discard target. So he just has nice synergy with the deck, and he's searchable, but he is a level 10, so we're pretty much strictly using him as an extender for link plays, which we'll get into when we show the combos. For non-engine hand traps, your preference. I really should be on 3 maxi, but I wanted to keep my list at 40. This deck basically always wants to go first, so you can combo off and set up some BS board. And this deck really has a pretty rough time going second, so I cut the maxi down to 2. But we are on 3 Ash, 2 Called By, and 1 Cross Out. We basically auto-fold the maxi, so anything we can do to stop that is ideal. 1 Feather Duster is our Saki back row hate. And any of the other cards I haven't gone over we'll go through as I go through the extra deck. We're on 1 Thunder Dragon Colossus as part of our combo, which we summon with Nemesis Corridor, who is searchable by our 1-of copy of Cupid Pitch. This all is just part of the combo, which we'll get into. We're on 1 DPE, which we'll go into via our 1-of Verte as part of our combo, and that means we need to run the Fusion Destiny, and then instead of Dasher, I'm on 2 Malicious and 1 Denier. Malicious and Denier and Grave are on their own Nightmare and Unicorn, so any summonable monster in hand means we can easily go into Access Code Talker on the Crackback, which is nice as a finisher for this deck, or if they manage to crack our board just to come back. Malicious is 1 extra Garnet, and it sucks to see him in hand, but in a pinch, we have a lot of ways to discard monsters, so you can discard Malicious from hand with one of your various discard effects, and then you can use it as an extender, but be aware that that is going to shut off your Verte play, because you'll no longer have a Malicious in deck. Next, we're on Borreload, just as an Omni Negate to set up as part of our combo, and he's a beefy lad. Of course, we're on the 1 Galaxy Tomahawk. He's the main focus of the deck. You could consider running him as a 2-of, but our combo uses so much of our extra deck. Going to a 2nd Galaxy Tomahawk probably isn't going to be that useful to you. We are on 2 Link Spiders because sometimes we need to change out a token to a different material for a Link summon. Like Verite, who needs 2 effect monsters, so you can't use the tokens, but you can easily change out a token into a Link Spider, and then you're able to do it. We're on 1 IP Masquerena as part of a combo piece, and just for setting up a strong board. 1 Dagda to set up, the stupid ass Scythe lock to lock out our opponent's extra deck on their turn. The cards that are useful for triggering Dagda in this deck are going to be Armed Dragon Flash, and then also Armogram, because if Armogram's on the board, you can just have him target himself while Dagda's up, and that's going to trigger Dagda's effect, because you're probably just about to link off Armogram anyway. We're on 1 Nightmare Unicorn as removal and link climbing, just a nice handy card to have. We're on 1 Auroradon because the tokens from Galaxy Tomahawk are machine type. So if 5 tokens wasn't enough for you, how about 3 more? You'll see him as part of the combo, but please be aware he does lock you out of link summoning for the rest of the turn once he hits the board. But he facilitates the 1-of Warblerin that we are running as our tuner in the main deck to go into Cupid Pitch, and then Borreload and Searching Nemesis Corridor for Colossus. We're gonna have one Avermax as a possible option for IP Masquerade to go into. He's just a difficult monster for your opponent to deal with. He's big. He deals with a lot of difficult monsters. He's just nice to have. We're on one Apollo USA as part of our combo, or for IP Masquerade to go into as part of your end board. And then one Access Code Talker as our finisher. That pretty much covers the card by card. Typically, the first part of our combo is getting 2 level 7 monsters on board. So first I'll show the general ways we can accomplish that. Next, I'll go over the combo line. I have some dual replays to show just as a showcase, and then I'll go over some other cards you might want to consider at the end. Without any further delay, let's see what the deck can do. So real quick, I'm going to go over all the possible ways to get a level 7 monster on board. For each of these, ignore all the other cards in hand. These are not the optimal combos for each hand that's shown. I'm just trying to show off each individual interaction for the one I'm showcasing. So first is the direct Armed Dragon line. You can either normal summon Armed Dragon level 3 or special summon him with the spell. Then you can discard one monster from hand to special summon level 5. Then you can activate level 5, discard another monster, and from here you can go into a level 7. You can either go into Armed Dragon level 7, but ideally, and probably 99% of the time, you'll probably go into Pile Armed Dragon. This next one is a direct follow-up to the Armed Dragon line, but I just want to show it off. You're just going to normal summon Artillery Catapult Turtle, activate its effect, tribute himself, then you can special summon an Armed Dragon level 5, then activate Armed Dragon level 5's effect, discard a monster, and then you can once again go into Armed Dragon level 7, or you can go into Pile Armed Dragon, which is who you'll probably go into most of the time. This next one, with Pile Armed Dragon in hand, you can discard another dragon or just special summon himself from the hand. Also, that will trigger some of the other lower level Armed Dragon's effects, which you can trigger now. With a Baby Ruler in hand, you can activate their effect and either discard a dragon or a monster of the same attributes, cue like an Ash Blossom for Burner, in order to summon the actual Dragon Ruler from your deck. And if you discarded one of the Armed Dragons to activate the Baby Dragon's effect, that will trigger the Armed Dragon's effects to do one of their searches. And remember that that's not actually going to count as using the Dragon Ruler's effect for the turn. So if this Dragon Ruler were to hit the grave, we would be able to special summon him with his own effect later on. If you have one of the Dragon Rulers in hand, you can activate their effect, banish 2 dragons or dragons and monsters of the same attribute from your hand in order to special summon it from the hand. As a follow-up, remember that the Dragon Ruler's effect can be activated from the grave, so feel free to use them as discard fodder for activating your other effects that require discards. So here you can see we have Tempest in the grave, so we can do our banish even though he's in the grave, and just special summon him the same as if he was in the hand. So now the combo. As always, check out the combo spreadsheet in the description for later reference or just to follow along. There's really only one main combo line, but the difference is how many extenders will you have after you summon Tomahawk, and how many link material will that give us. You'll generally have between 1 to 3 extenders depending on your setup, and 3 may sound like a lot, but with the searches off the Armed Dragons, the Dragon Rulers, and the fact that you don't typically have to normal summon, 3 is really not unreasonable for you to have even after getting 2 level 7s on board. So it's best to conceptualize this combo as how many link material do I have? You know, after you summon and activate Galaxy Tomahawk, you'll have Galaxy Tomahawk and 5 tokens. So that's 6 link material. If you have 3 extenders after that, that's 9 to work with. So you'll know you'll always end on using 3 of your tokens for Auroradon. So that means we have 6 left to work with. So what can we do with 6? Well, we can use 2 of those for Dagda, and then we can use 2 more for Verte, and then that leaves us with 2 left. So we can combine those 2 with Dagda, and then we can go into Apollo. So now we just need to make that happen. So let's get into the combo. So I'll start off by activating Pile Armed Dragon's effect, and we will discard the Armed Dragon level 7 because we know if we discard him, that's going to trigger his effect to get a search off. So we'll activate level 7, and we're going to search level 5 because we want to discard that to get another search when we use him for activation of another effect. So we'll use the Baby Dragon's effect. We'll discard that level 5 we just searched. That's going to summon our Dragon Ruler to get 2 level 7s on board. Then we'll trigger the level 5, and we will search out an extender. Then we will activate Pile Armed Dragon's effect, and we will send level 3 because that's the only Armed Dragon effect that we haven't used yet, and they're all once per turn. Just to get that draw, maybe we find something useful. And now we will overlay them for Galaxy Tomahawk, because we have 2 level 7s on board. Of course, activate Galaxy Tomahawk, summon a million tokens. Then we will link off a token and Galaxy Tomahawk himself for Dagda. Now we want to use an extender that is able to trigger Dagda. So that's either going to be the Armed Dragon spell or it's going to be the Dragunity. We can special summon him by banishing 2 dragons from the grave. So special summon him, activate his effect, just target himself. It's going to negate his effect, but it doesn't matter. He's not going to be on the board long. We're just trying to trigger Dagda. So activate Dagda, set Scythe. Now we're going to link off one of the tokens for Link Spider, because Apollo has to use only effect monsters. We'll link off these 3 monsters for a 3-mat Apollo. Now we're going to summon our second extender. Which, because he was summoned by the Baby Ruler, he hasn't actually used this effect yet, so we can bring him back. And now, since we have a normal summoned, we can just normal summon this Baby Ruler as our third extender, and now we can just use those 2 just to go into Berete. Which, make sure you don't activate Berete yet, because that is going to lock you. But just get him on the board before you go Auroradon, because you cannot link summon after you Auroradon. So we'll use our last 3 tokens for Auroradon. Make sure you save the tokens for it, because they have to be machine monsters, and the tokens are machines. Activate Auroradon's effect, summon 3 tokens. Activate Auroradon again. Make sure you select the second effect in order to special summon a Mecha Phantom Beast. We're going to summon our tuner. Now we're going to synchro summon for Cupid Pitch with our tuner and a token. Activate Cupid Pitch in order to increase its level. So now it's level 5 with the level 3 token. That gives us 8. We can go into Borreload. Activate Borreload, target Auroradon. And of course, activate Cupid Pitch. Cupid Pitch is going to search for Nemesis Corridor. Now we can activate Nemesis Corridor to special summon himself. Now, since we activated a Thunder Monster's effect in hand, we can summon our Colossus. And then to finish up the combo, just activate Berete. I'm going to send the Malicious in hand and the Denier from deck. We send the Malicious in hand just to keep Malicious online for next turn. And now we have our end board. And just to show it off, I'm going to show what we'll do on our opponent's turn. Right in the draw phase, make sure we toggle on, we'll activate DPE, and then we'll target 2 of our cards to destroy Scythe just to trigger Scythe. Special summon Scythe, and now we have our end board. We have the 3 monster effect negates from Apollo, we have the Omni negate from Borreload, we have Colossus that can protect himself from destruction, and then we have DPE, and of course our opponent now cannot access their extra deck. So this is the version of the combo that I'll be showing off when you only have one single extender, which does come up sometime with suboptimal hands. We'll start off by normal summoning the level 3, activating his effect by discarding level 5. And then we will special summon Armed Dragon level 5 from deck. And then since we discard level 5, we can activate his effect to search one of the Dragon Rulers out. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Now we will activate level 5. We will discard one monster from our hand, and then we will go into Pile on Dragon. We will activate Pile Arm Dragon's effect, send a level 7 in order to activate level 7 search. And we will search out the spell as an extender. Now we will activate Tempest. We will banish 2 in order to special summon him. And now we have 2 level 7s on board. We can go into Galaxy Tomahawk. So overlay. And activate and summon 5 tokens. Now for this next part, I go into IP Mask Arena. We could have gone into Dagda, but I value the IP Mask more. But really it's going to end up being your preference, what you think's better. So we link off a token and Galaxy Tomahawk for IP Mask. Now we are going to activate our extender. It's going to special summon a level 3 from the deck. And then we will link off one of the tokens for a Link Spider because that's to be an effect monster, go into Verte. Now we'll link off these two for Verte. And we'll link off the remaining 3 tokens for Auroradon. Activate Auroradon's effect. Activate Auroradon's effect again to get out our tuner from the deck. Synchro summon Cupid Pitch. Activate Cupid Pitch. Increase the level. Synchro Borreload. Target Auroradon with Borreload. And then activate Cupid Pitch to search Nemesis Corridor. Special summon Nemesis Corridor. And then use him to special summon Colossus. And last activate Verte in order to summon DPE. And then we have our end board. We have the Omni Negate from Borreload. We have the Colossus that once again is immune from 1 destruction. We have a DP we can activate on our opponent's turn. And then we have an IP Mask, and we can use IP Mask and Verte to go into whatever Link 4 or Link 3 that we want. That is also going to be indestructible to card effects because of IP Mask's effect. So typically you can go into a 2-mat Apollo, or you can go into Avramax, or you can go into Nightmare Unicorn, whatever is best for the situation. So that pretty much covers the combo line. You'll have to get a feel for it on whether you want to go into something different or if your opponent gets some interruption in there, how you want to approach the combo. Just try to think of it as how many materials do I still have left to work with. I think that's the best path to take. But that pretty much covers the combos, like I said. So without any further delay, let's get into some duels. And Johnny, can you play some tunes for me? Alright, first duel up, we have won the coin toss. We are going to start off this duel by firing off Pylarm Dragon summon level 5. It's going to get our Pylarm Dragon on board. We're going to trigger level 5 to add level 7 to our hand because we're about to discard him. We'll use Pylarm Dragon to send level 3 because we want to use all their effects and they're all once per turns. So then we'll send level 7 into Baby Dragon in order to get Tempest on board. So we have our 2 level 7s and we're going to go into Galaxy Tomahawk and we will fire that effect now. We're about to get our combo rolling. And opponent is on the rock. Alright, so there goes our board. We got the Maxi in hand, so we can turn that Maxi into a pot of greed, which is nice. We actually have a ton of extenders in the grave, so let's go ahead and use those now. We'll go into Dag to set Scythe. We'll turn the giant Nibiru token to a Link Spider, and then we'll link them off for Verte, and we'll go Verte into DPE. So now we're set up with DPE and Scythe, which is pretty strong on our opponent's turn. After that, we'll pass off after popping the Nibiru. We'll start the turn, we'll fire DPE in the draw phase. He has the Cosmic Cyclone, unfortunately. He's also going to fire off the Forbidden Droplet here. He wants to keep my DPE on the board. And it looks like we're on Live Twin, and it's Live Twin Sprite. So he's going to summon that Jet. Jet's going to search for Smashers. He is going to exceed those off for the Gigantic Sprite, activate the effect, search out Blue. Blue's going to search out Red. Red's going to summon. He's going to link those 2 off for Dagda. He's going for a Scythe play himself, so he's going to activate Smashers to get rid of my DPE by banishment, so I won't be able to bring him back next turn. Unfortunate. Gonna link those two off for Elf. Go activate Elf. And unfortunately, he did not set up a way to pop the Scythe on his turn. So we should actually be able to clean this up on the crackback because we actually have a lot of follow-up. So we'll start out, Summon Malicious. We will trigger the Elf. We will trigger Max Z. Activate Denier, bring back Denier. Denier will send that Malicious that's banished back on top of our deck. Link those two off for IP Mask. Activate Malicious, banish, bring out the other Malicious. We will summon Nightmare Unicorn. That way, even if he triggers the red here, he will not be able to destroy our Nightmare Unicorn. So he will negate the spin, but it did get a monster off the opponent's board, which is really what we were going for. So we're going to Catapult Turtle, which will bring out level 5 to level 7. We'll go ahead and bring back Tempest. Link these two off for Access Code Talker. We have a lot of damage on board. Make sure not to activate the Pile Arm Dragon because that will lock us into one monster attacking this turn. And now, simple enough, we'll just activate Access Code Talker, clears board, make sure not to pop that Scythe in the back row, and we'll swing in for lethal. Easy game. GG. Alright, so we got the next duel forward. We lost the coin toss, but it looks like our opponent was pretty bricked up. He's just going to set one and pass it over to us. We'll start off by triggering Pile Arm Dragon. We are going to send level 5 to the grave. He's going to respond with Max C, but we've got the Ash for that. Good stuff. Level 5 is going to trigger. We're going to go ahead and grab Tempest. Activate Pile Arm Dragon's effects, and level 7 that'll allow us to search Arm Dragon Flash. We'll activate Burner in hand, and that'll allow us to get blasted from the deck. We'll go to the battle phase here because Galaxy Tomahawk will prevent us from doing any further battle damage, so we might as well swing in now. Go to Galaxy Tomahawk, and he responds with the Imperm.
Why are we still here? Just a summon.
So it looks like no one wants to let our Galaxy Tomahawk resolve today, but that's okay. We actually have a million extenders in grave, so we're going to go ahead and summon our Artillery Catapult Turtle, trigger him off, just get an extra dragon in grave. We're going to go Dagda. We're going to activate the Flash, that's going to trigger Dagda's effects, set Sight. Get level 3 out of deck. We're going to bring back Blaster. Link these two off for IP Mask. Link these two off for Verte, and with 3 cards in hand at that, he's going to go ahead and scoop it up. GG. Alright, next game I got for you. And it looks like we have the Warbler in hand. You hate to see those Garnets in hand, but we did draw the Pile Arm Dragon, so we'll go ahead and activate that, send a level 7 to grave that it will search the Flash. We're going to activate the Pile Arm Dragon, and the opponent is not going to read my cards and is going to respond with that Imperm. Pile Arm Dragon does send for cost. That Imperm's not really going to do anything, but level 5 Black Dragon Grave, which will search out Tempest. We'll activate Tempest Banish 2. We've got the 2 level 7s on board. Now we can go into Galaxy Tomahawk. That Imperm would have been pretty nice right about now, but his effect is going to resolve without a response. And we are going to combo off. Unfortunately, Auroradon's not going to make a lot of sense here because we have our Garnet in hand, but we are still going to be able to put up a pretty strong board. We'll go into Dagda, we'll activate Flash, it's going to trigger Dagda, set the side, that's going to burn out level 3. We'll tribute to level 3 and send level 3 from our hand to grave just to get the draw. We'll go into Link Spider, link these 3 off for a 3 Mad Apollo USA. Link these 2 off for IP Masquerina. Link off for Link Spider, and then just normal summon Warbler in hand, which is going to go into Verte, which is of course going to go into DPE. Sending Malicious and Denier. Now we're set up for a pretty strong board against our opponent. Right in the draw phase, we're going to fire the DPE and pop our Scythe in the back row. It's going to trigger Scythe to lock our opponent out of the extra deck. See how much of a difference that makes, and it looks like it's not really making any difference at all. He is on L. He is going to have the Regeki, but we'll respond with the IP Masquerine, just go to Abramax just to get a body on board that he can't deal with. But we do have the Duster in our hand as follow-up. And DP may or may not have come back because we may or may not have forgotten to activate his effect. Whoops. He is going to activate the Sanguine at the response to the Duster, but we do have the Ash for that. He'll flip up Teekaboo, not that that's going to do anything, and now we shouldn't have any issue finding lethal with the Malicious follow-up. We'll go ahead and summon Malicious. We will bring back Denier. Denier is going to put the Banished Malicious back on the top of our deck. We'll bring back Tempest. We will use all 3 of those as link material for Nightmare Unicorn. Not going to use Unicorn, no need to. We'll activate the Malicious that's now in our grave. Bring back the Malicious we just sent back. Link off into Access Code Talker, Access Code Talker, target Unicorn. Activate Access Code, pop his 1 body on board, and now we have plenty of damage on board for lethal swing in, and that's all she wrote. On to the next game. The last duel I have here today, we won the coin toss, and by some miracle, my opponent has no interaction. So I went ahead and filed my flight plan earlier, so let me go ahead and call up Tower and let's get out of here. Clearance delivery, this is Tomahawk 42069er, looking to pick up IFR to Bronze 1. Tomahawk 42069er cleared to Bronze 1 is filed, expect 5 tokens, 10 minutes after departure. Proceed direct to Scythelock, radar vectors to IP Mask, Verte. Report crossing Auroradon. Direct Cupid pitch. Overload, Colossus, TPE. Contain 6,000 life points. Contact departure, Squawk 6-9er, 6-9er. Alright, looks like my readback was correct. So at the start of the main phase, let's go ahead and fire DP. Target Scythe, get him under the Scythe lock, and let's see what my opponent is on. He's going to activate Pot of Extravagance. I'm going to let it go. I'm more worried about some sort of board clear going down. Harpy's Feather Duster is fine, but at this point, I'm worried about what kind of monster effect he's going to activate. So I'm just going to go ahead into Apollo at this point, just to shut down anything he might be on. He's going to go Foolish Burial Goods, which is going to send Ice Berry, which actually plays out Colossus very interestingly. And then I'm going to get very greedy, and I just didn't understand what his deck did and never negated. So he is going to switch that Kaiju and get rid of my Borreload. He's going to set 2. DP is going to come back. He's going to trigger that Torrential Tribute, but we'll go ahead and fire DP just to pop that out of the back row, which is another Ice Barrier. Unfortunately for him, 2 of my monsters were protected from card effect destruction, so we shouldn't have any issue go ahead and finding lethal here again, because we know we have Malicious in Grave. So let's go ahead and activate that, bring back Malicious, bring back Denier. Denier's going to send the Banished Malicious back to the top of our deck, but he's not going to be there too long. We'll go ahead and bring back Tempest. Link for 3, we go into Unicorn again. I know this is familiar, but it's just such a nice, clean finisher. I just can't help but go for it. Summon that Malicious, go into Access Code Talker, 5,300, and we have well over lethal. GG's, friend. So I put together a short list of other cards you might want to consider, a different hand trap lineup. If there's certain hand traps you think are better for this meta or other staples that you like, feel free to run them if you can find the space. The only one I would really consider out of this group would be the Cyframe Gear Gamma, because there's a lot of instances where you're activating an effect that can cause a hand trap response, and your board is empty, like e.g. you used Arm Dragon Flash, or you tributed off Catapult Turtle to activate his effect, or you're activating one of the Baby Dragons or like Pile Arm Dragon's effect in hand. You might consider going into it. It does mean you're running the one of Garnet, and he does have a bit of an anti-synergy because they are going to take up 2 monster zones, which means you're not going to be able to summon as many tokens with Galaxy Tomahawk. But you could sync them off for Omega, and then Omega can bounce himself right off the field. So that could actually be pretty strong and almost game-winning if you're able to pull that off. If you negate one of their most important hand traps and rip a card out of their hand, that's pretty strong. You're on Dagda, so you could run Lancia if you value him enough right now as a different search target for Dagda instead of Scythe, or if you happen to draw Scythe, you still have someone for Dagda to search. The Adventure package actually works really well with this deck, even just beyond being just an Omni Negate you could throw up, because Griffin Rider is a level 7. That's another way you can get a level 7 on board. Like if you just draw a Griffin Rider, you can just special summon him as your first action. Now you've already got a level 7 on board. Or it's just 1 card, level 7, if you're able to go through the full adventure line by doing Water Enchantress, and then getting the adventure token, searching out Griffin Rider, then you can get Griffin Rider on field. And also, Enchantress doesn't hate being discarded. Unfortunately, Enchantress is at 1 right now, so that wouldn't come up too much, but occasionally you sack into it. The deck isn't great going second. My card choice is definitely partially to blame for that, so you could certainly beef it up with some better going second cards. Like you could throw your Droplets in, you could throw your Lightning Storms in, or just some other good going second cards you might want to consider, like a Lava Golem, something along those lines. Of course, more back row hate, depending on what you're seeing on the ladder. You might want to go a couple copies of Lightning Storm, or you might want to include some Cosmic Cyclones. One inclusion you might want to consider is Arm Dragon level 10 white. I know he seems like he's a complete piece of garbage. You would never go into him because his summoning is kind of difficult, but he does a really great job at dealing with floodgates since his effect to summon and search happens in the hand. So you can summon him, search out White Veil, and then go into your battle phase attack, and you might be able to completely clear their back row, and that's pretty much going to be game winning against back row heavy decks if you're able to pull that off. It's funny, but probably not good and probably not worth running. But if you haven't want to try it out, go for it. In terms of the extra deck, you can consider some of the other rank 7 XYZs. To let you know, the lineup for that really isn't that spectacular. Your best bet is probably Draco Sack. And then you could also like slip in Zeus as a way to clear boards. But really, I think the extra deck that we had set up is good enough. If you can find the space, go for it. But I'll tell you, most likely you're going to want to go to Galaxy Tomahawk anytime you can. In terms of Link monsters, one you could consider would be Simurgh. The way that you summon him is you go Galaxy Tomahawk, summon the tokens, then you can use a token and Galaxy Tomahawk himself to go into Harpy Conductor because they're both wind monsters. And then since Harpy Conductor is a winged beast, you can use Harpy Conductor and then one more of the other tokens to go into Simurgh. And then at the end phase, you just use it to search Apex Avian. The only problem is this is going to take up 2 of your extra deck slots. It adds a Garnet, and it's going to completely change up your combo line because you're using up 3 of your tokens right off the bat. But I wanted to mention it as something you might want to consider. And since the deck has no issues getting monsters on the board, you could of course consider Underworld Goddess as a way to deal with problem monsters your opponent might summon, and just as a strong monster you have the option to go into. That pretty much covers it. If there are other cards you like, let me know below. But other than that, let me pull up the deck one last time and we can take a look. Here's the deck again. Let me know your thoughts and questions below. Good luck out there on ladder, and see ya.